Okay, now we're going to go to our closing dialogue, and I'm going to invite our three keynotes up to the stage, please. But I want to, before I ask them to come up, encourage you to ask questions. There'll be microphones circulating. This is your opportunity to really ask questions. I have a few in my pocket in case you're not going to be very responsive very quickly. But we do have some prizes. We have some radios to give away. We have a couple of bottles of Pinot Noir from France. Not the best. New Zealand obviously has the best Pinot Noir, but still good drinking, I'm sure. Yeah, but you may have to speak up a little bit to overcome the sound of the rain. And I'm actually pleased that there's rain. I mean, it may be invading us noise-wise, but you know, we had a drought in New Zealand, and it is raining in New Zealand now, so it's sort of a sign that actually we're getting some water there. Supposedly 150 millimeters of water and rain in New Zealand in 24 hours are happening right now, and the farmers really needed it. So it's happening somewhere in the world where people are very, very appreciative, and the economy is very in need of it. Dave Gibson, would you please come up and join us? Richard Chuang, where are you? Come up and join us. There you are. And then Andy, please come up. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you to think of your questions and then raise your hand. We have microphones circulating. Please ask questions, otherwise I'm going to have to ask mine, and mine may not be yours. You won't get your questions answered. And I encourage you, if I may, please ask a question. Don't tell a story for leading up to your question. Ask a question, please. We'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, I want to see some hands go up. You won't get a radio. There you go. Can we have a microphone here, please? And if you would identify whom you're directing the question to, or just ask if you want everyone to answer it.
Yes, I'd like to, this is Tony here from Hong Kong. I'd like to ask a question to Andrew. Basically, I comprehend the situation now as you presented about this transmedia, social media, and a new opportunity, so to speak. My question is very simple. How would the younger generation nowadays, in the age of between 15 and 21, to prepare themselves to harness and possibly to harvest the tremendous opportunity that we've never seen before? That's my question.
So the question, if you haven't heard it, was what's the advice to a 15 to 20-year-old, someone in the youth market, to how to move forward in this business, pretty much? And are you thinking about someone who is specifically interested in media?
Not really. Actually, I'm thinking about my son. You know, he's now age 12. He has no interest in anything other than game. But when you talk to him, he probably do not know what he's going to come up to. But it doesn't really matter. But because I think the trend, the mega trend, is quite clear. But then my question is, how would people like him to be prepared to harness the future?
My opinion is that gaming is one of the most critical ways for somebody in the world, anywhere in the world, to live their life over their next 70, 80 years. I think I don't see the negative side of it, unless, you know, anything that's abused is abused on the upper end. But I think that the talents and the experience that are gained from gaming are critically important. And I think if you've heard the term gamification, what a lot of us are thinking about is how do the traits and the parts of gaming that are so successful in gaming, how do they translate to other forms of storytelling? And then in the transmedia world, how do you connect linear storytelling with games and extend that, extend that title, extend that brand? So I think that if someone really is very interested in gaming and can find a way to make a life out of it or a career out of it, not just a hobby, I would think that's a good thing.
If I can jump in, just because I have a teenager myself, And I think it's somewhat Western, but Andy hit on it. This issue of passion. I think we came out of an era where we were supposed to sort of go to school, and then work and be prepared. And I think it's very traditional to look at what your life's work will be in terms of what do you want to achieve financially. And I think the issue of passion and work is critical, I think, in the 21st century, because if you're passionate about something, you treat it differently, and you obviously work differently to make it happen. And I think what you're seeing happen now, and the examples we've seen today, are young people who are passionate about a particular area, and because of that, they break through in that sector. They create disruptive kinds of technologies because they're driven by their passion to do something and do it differently, better, and in a new, unique way. And I think you're going to see, and you are seeing, change driven by young people who are passionate about what their careers and their life choices may be at this point in time.
Thank you.
Yes, we have a question back there.
Yes. My question is, there are lots of content around the world. But however, I mean, as a user, as a viewer, we have difficulty purchasing content from overseas. There's no problem if you buy it from Amazon, but if you try to view it on the net, there seems to be, I mean, the content owner seems to be reluctant to sell it through the internet. Is there any reason why it is, or why the barrier hasn't been broken?
Dave wants to take that.
Well, I can probably answer that question as someone who also produces quite a lot of television. And the reality is that the people that are currently paying us quite a lot of money for our television don't want you to get it. So we're restricted in the deals that we do today. And that's a real issue, so that things are geo-blocked as a result of the television distribution deals that we do. So, and while you might only pay us a couple of dollars, they're paying us tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's the sad reality of it. I mean, I think that will break down, and it'll break down quite quickly.
A lot of that is still protecting the local distributor. That's why a lot of this doesn't happen. As electronic distribution become more prevalent and start crossing border, all the local entities start disappearing, which is good and bad. Because for all the businesses who currently exist purely for regional distribution, the fact that you can buy something across the border will remove their livelihood. So there are issues in both sides.
Yeah, and I can give you quite a good example. In New Zealand, most of the television content goes to the free-to-air channels, but if it's specialist in something, we can probably sell it to an Australian pay channel, like if it's history or crime or something like that, but they broadcast in New Zealand as well, so we can't make that sale in Australia because they cross into our border, and our free-to-air broadcaster, who's paid for most of the production, doesn't want us to be breaking their window. But over time, I'm convinced that this will break down.
There's another question in this corner. I see a couple hands over here, so one here, one here. Oh, you got the mic, go for it. Whoever has the mic goes.
Actually, just quickly getting back to something Andrew mentioned just before was gamification. Obviously, it's become a bit of a buzzword, and I like the fact that I'm asking this of a bunch of non-gamers as opposed to the previous panel. But what do you see happening in that area? Is it a trend? Is it something that's legitimately going to happen long term? I hear about it for employee engagement, customer loyalty, those kinds of things. I'd be interested in your opinion.
I come from the gaming sector years ago in the Valley. I think there's sort of two elements to that. One is interactivity. This issue of creating media that is interactive. They were calling it serious games for a while, which meant to apply game principles to education and training. you know, I don't think it's gonna stop. I think you're gonna see more and more of it. I think it's gonna get more and more sophisticated. I think traditional gamers, and I have worked with some of the top game gurus in Silicon Valley, and I can tell you they're now working for some of the major companies that, you know, essentially are trying to apply those same principles to essentially communicate with their 30,000 employees, big multinational companies. Also, some of the networks, you know, that are, you know, networks that have become, you know, ubiquitous to us in modern times, like Google and Yahoo. They're doing very, very similar kinds of things in terms of talking to game specialists around how to create user interface design that applies those principles. So you're just going to see more and more, I think, of, and it's because those media people came out of interactive. And, you know, interactivity didn't really begin in media until the late 80s, early 90s, and then started to become what essentially has become the composite of social media and games and all of the interactive platforms and environments today. And so I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to increase.
May I raise a question, please?
Who's got the mic? Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. There's two questions. One is concerning the augmented reality, no glasses. I just heard one of the presenters, he say that later on will be very soon will be, you know, can achieve this targeted result. And second question is concerning the real-time pictures and sound, the editing synchronized over the IP. So, and I would like to know it, so let's say we want to make a documentary. Just coincidence, you meet some accident, you want to make it become a documentary and then record down. So how can we achieve it? Let's say we are laymen, we don't have the, you know, some high technology, you know, technical know-how to do it, or so would like to, you know, seeking your advice. Let's say we use the basic, you know, some basic technology, how we could, you know, handling it.
Create content.
I mean, just what I previously mentioned about the question. Let's say is making a documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Do you want to respond to that, Richard? Do you want to take a shot at that?
Well, I think sometimes for a lot of the more spontaneous work people do, I mean, documentaries covers a very broad area. And in terms of, I've seen people done amazing short documentary film by using a bunch of phones. They collected, you know, video from a bunch of people in the current situation. They take all the edit. In fact, last night on CNN, I was watching a sort of semi-documentary of the bombing in Boston. It was all collection of phone video from, you know, people in the area. And that was an amazing amount of information. It was very educational, very convey incredible amount of information by crowdsourcing existing material. I mean, that's probably one of the most documented events in recent time. And the coolest thing that I realized is they can actually get everybody's phone and video and create a 3D timeline through the whole event. That's going to be incredible to see.
Yeah, and the authorities are trying to do that actually to piece it together. But I think I came out of video production and then video game sector. You know, when I started shooting video, it was very difficult to edit it. You know, now you can download software or buy software that makes it really easy. I think it's the responsibility of institutions to move young people today through not just traditional literacy, but through media literacy. And you need to learn those media tools. And, you know, people are doing it anyway. That's why there's the enormous, you know, increase in video being uploaded and available, through, the public networks, if you want to call it that. So, you know, I think you need to just dedicate yourself to learning that, but the next generation, the new generation, learns it. I mean, you know, the Macs come with GarageBand. My son is a musician. At the age of 16, he'd already written his first album and recorded it with his friends. It's just that the next generation has access to tools, and if they choose to use them, they can be enormously creative, and if not, make mistakes until they get it right, or go on and do something next. It isn't like it was before. I grew up in an era where television was something you watched and nobody knew how to make it. And now everybody's got digital recorders and everybody makes media. So it's just a matter of you deciding that you want to use the tools, learn how to use the tools, and then move ahead.
Yeah, this generation of kids know there's nothing they can't learn if they're willing to spend the time to learn it.
There you go.
They can learn far more on their own than any school will ever be able to teach them, which is a frightening thought for people in the educational field. Because my son, when he was a junior in high school, he was the national champion for e-commerce programming in the United States, okay? And he didn't learn it from me. He learned it online on his own, right? So kids can learn this stuff if they choose to. There's no excuse anymore. So, and I think we as a society needs to support this new method of learning and put it to good use. Teach them the value of what they can do with this power. I think that's the key.
Well, building on what they both said, my advice to people all the time is if you want to create a piece of content like a documentary and you're an adult, hire a high school or a college student to do it for you, and he or she will teach you along the way how to do it, because young people are looking for projects to get behind where they can get some credit in school, not necessarily get paid, or where they can learn the skill and say, hey, I did this film for this woman, and here it is. Take a look at what I can do.
That's a great example. Just something for this gentleman here who asked about gaming. When I was involved in the 90s with electronic arts in the games business, we had hundreds of interns doing quality assurance, QA, on games, and they've gone on to start their own game companies, and they were paid to play games and find the flaws in them and help correct them, and it's an enormously valuable path, I guess, to get into the business. Question?
Hi, I got a question for Andrew. It's regarding the program content trends. As you said, the program content should be like a tools to enhance the quality of life, right? So I'd like to know, besides animations, besides documentary or a lifestyle TV show program, do you think there is an increasing demand from the audience on the performing arts content? This is the first question I'd like to ask, especially in Asia, and also about the possibility for this area of program content, performing arts.
Yeah, to the first part of your question, I just wanted to make it clear that what I consider content that improves your life or improves the world, it's not limited to documentary or educational. I think there are comedies. I think there are one of the shows we're working on is a reality show called Race to the Future, where college students are teamed with college-age students in third world countries, and they have to find a way to solve a problem. For instance, 1 million gallons of water to Liberia, to Monrovia, Liberia, and they have to figure out how to break through the language barriers, how to break through the cultural barriers, and create something like that. Performing arts and media is going through the same disastrous problem that performing arts in the schools, at least in North America, are going through. In life in general, for us, it seems to be the first thing that's always cut from school budgets. So then you turn to media. How can media become a tool for that? Frankly, there are a couple of performing arts related networks in the United States that don't do particularly well. And I think it's because of a narrow view as to what performing arts is. Because it's not just music, it's not just classical music. It's much broader than that. Learning about jazz, learning about art, visual arts, as well as the performing arts. I think it's just something that we as communicators and people in the media business have to figure out how to offer that. For instance, it's not performing arts, but we had a lot of programming at A&E for schools. And we put the programming on throughout the schedule. And whenever one of those programs came on, the ratings went down. But when we took all that programming and packaged it and ran it from 6 to 9 a.m. and called it A&E Classroom, where people knew what they were going to get at that time, the ratings were up. We got the kind of audience that we wanted. A network called Lifetime had the same situation with medical programming. So I think that with performing arts programming, we need to go back to that. There's very little variety performances on North American television. I think we just got away from it because I think that people jump on the bandwagon. If reality's big, everybody does a reality show. If news is big, everybody does biased news. Other than it's something that we need to get back to because we owe it to ourselves and our children, I think that's just the solution.
I can add a little bit. Our company's done over the years an enormous amount of arts material, and frankly I think that it's a bit of a dead-end street in television, so I'm going to go even a step further. I think the reality is that what you find is that someone will like opera, but they might not like jazz music. And so the problem in arts and areas is that people lump everything together, and it just isn't like that. And so I think that narrowcasting and internet and you know, that type of thing. I mean, my mother watches DVDs of opera because that's what she's interested in. She's only interested in opera. She's not interested in jazz. And I think that that's a very real issue in the arts area, and people have mistakenly for years believed that arts was some wonderful thing that encompassed all of those genres, and you know, as life goes on, things are becoming more and more narrowcast.
Another question here.
Hi. We seem to have a little bit of an issue with curation. There's so much content out there. There's never been so much content, so pervasive, so mobile. Most of that curation is driven by advertising. So when I go to Google and type something, I'm searching for something, but eventually I get whatever Google wants me to see first. When I go to YouTube and look for a specific content, I have a similar problem. So how is curation actually evolving, and how do you think curation is going to change? Because I'm not particularly happy. I can look for some specific content if I probably end up watching a DVD of opera instead of searching that video on YouTube, because I know specifically what I want. So I'd like to have your views on curation.
One of the danger we face today is the selectivity and the discovery process is based on popular demand, right? You know, the Reddit, I don't know if you guys read Reddit, but the Reddit approach to selecting what's visible to people is the more people put an upvote on it, or the thumbs up on it, the more visible it becomes. But that sort of contradicts the idea of curation, to show things that people normally don't necessarily see. So which is a big problem right now on the internet. I mean, if you use Google, make sure you turn off cookies, clear your cache, so you get fresh ideas. Otherwise, you're going to get what you always get. So.
You want to comment? Dave? Okay.
No, I think it's a really good question, and to be honest, I don't know that I know the answer.
I spoke to someone at the break who was talking about what are the software opportunities. I think there's a huge software opportunity there in, you know, this whole issue of filing, indexing, and accessing, you know, content. You saw and you've heard all, you know, today how much more video content there's going to be. You know, how do you find what you're looking for? You know, how do you characterize it so you can get access to it? I think it's a big issue that needs to be resolved, and it's fundamentally, you know, unclear at this point.
I mean, probably the simple answer would be, I mean, I read an enormous amount of books that I buy and read on Kindle. And to me, the Amazon Kindle system is pretty good because I can get professional reviews, I can get user reviews, I can read a chapter, and within you know, and I also get that if you read this, you might like that, which a lot of people are a bit sniffy about, but I think, frankly, is good. If that existed in television terms, that would be great. I mean, I watch the first 1 or 2 episodes of every new show because that's the business that I'm in. But the shows that I continue to watch are largely based around people that I know telling me things, and that's extraordinarily old-fashioned. I can't believe that I'm still watching TV shows because somebody in the office told me that I should be watching them. So, you know, if there was a television equivalent of a really good critical version of the Amazon system, I think it would probably take off.
Another question here? Can we get a microphone?
Me?
On this side? Yes? There's another one here? Okay, one here, and then we'll take your question when they get you a mic. Yes, please?
Yes. As the smart TV is becoming more and more popular, and some devices like Android and Apple TV is coming. So now the TV is not a device, okay, used solely for the watching broadcast, but many things you can do on top of it. So my question is, do you give me some insight of your thinking about the future of the home entertainments? And the second is, as a SME of a technology company in Hong Kong, okay, what should we prepare for the coming future challenge?
Big question. Who's going to field it?
In the US, just I think last month, Netflix surpassed the largest cable network. So their audience was bigger than the largest cable channel. That was extraordinary because Netflix is totally on demand. So scheduled broadcast business is pretty much on the way out. So it's really much an audience-driven market right now. I mean, in the US, most people cancel the cable channel. Nobody buys cable anymore. People moving more towards on-demand, IPTV. And I think in Asia, I think the Netflix haven't quite hit yet. I think that will be the biggest shift in terms of how people get entertained. Because once you have Netflix, because Netflix is a very promising 4K channel, right?
It's quite interesting. I come from a very small country, so you've got almost the two opposites here because you've got Netflix operating in a completely commercial environment. And I live in a country where there's a situation where the free-to-airs get subsidy from the government to play local programming. So, and local programming is very attractive to the local audience. So I think that there could be, you know, in more, dare I say it, socialist countries, you could get a pushback that would delay the death of free-to-air television. But I don't know how long it will delay it. That will be the interesting question.
Yeah, you know, it's all another example of individuals, the viewers having control. They want it when they want it, how they want it, and where they want it. Netflix used to be a home delivery service. You got your Netflix movies in your mailbox, and then you watched it, and then you put it back in your mailbox, and it got sent back. A lot of people didn't opt for that, but now that it's so easy and it skips that step, it became very, very convenient. I think you're going to see more of that. You know, the term that we use in the States is connected TV, and it's, again, those three categories. And you mentioned one of them, smart TVs, over-the-top providers, and game console companies. Those are the three types of companies that form this whole connected TV that's, you know, moving ahead in many cases of traditional cable or satellite or broadcast companies.
But you still got contradictions. You've got a massive growth, for example, in China of people building cinemas, and the cinema business is going through the roof. But then you've got other countries where the cinema business is struggling. You know, would you today put money into a DVD store? Nobody I know would buy a DVD store. You know, is cinema the next DVD store? I suspect so, but then China would tell you differently in the short term. So you're going to get a lot of regional variation, I think.
We have another question over here.
Hi, good afternoon. Actually, my question is similar to the last one, but I rephrase it a little bit. In the afternoon, Andrew talked about one of the trends for next year is the emerging of TV and IP. I would like to hear from Andrew and the rest of the panelists. What will you be foreseeing what's happening in the next 1 to 2 years, including Asia? The emerging TV and IP.
Well, I don't know enough about the Asian market. If you could all teach me, I'll hang out here more often. But I think, you know, IPTV the term has really, the terms have changed, I think, a lot. But I mean, anything that's the convergence of what was a television and what was internet protocol, or whatever you call that, is where it's going. And I think that, I think in the US, a lot of people, a lot of companies expected people to take that cord to their computer and hook it up to their big screen TV. And I don't think that happened to any large extent. But I think this connected TV, which is really just another version of this, in kind of in the same way, is what's catching on, at least in the States.
I think more and more my friends are, you know, buying from China these $30 US dollar, you know, Android TV stick, right? You buy that stick for 30 bucks. You got it wireless on it, you plug into your TV, now you suddenly have IP connected TV. The biggest danger there is still what I said earlier, the fact that they're creating programming based on audience viewing habits. So you are dictating the future creative direction of what people will be seeing. So there's no more risk-taking. It'll be based on what people like, but not what they have not imagined, which is the scariest part for me.
I think there'll be regional differences. Like, I think that in China there's a lot of young people that just don't watch TV, that are just completely linked into mobile. So they're going to jump, like it's just like they've jumped a step completely. And again, I wouldn't have, you know, will they go to IPTV or will they just stay with mobile?
Another question? You ended with a question. Will they do that? Which one?
I'd be interested in what other people might think.
Yeah. You have a question? Yes.
I came from the Silicon Valley and spent a few years in Hong Kong. In the previous presentation, you mentioned that you want to build a better China-America. So what are the biggest challenges for you to do that? There must be a lot of political and technical issues. And how could you become a leader in the digital entertainment industry here in Asia?
Well, I don't know that I have any grand dreams of becoming a leader of that in Asia. I guess what I really want to do is find ways where I can partner with Asian-based companies where we both share the need to create content, at least a percentage of which can be shared. And there may not be a lot, but it might be a start. I think Americans are so stupid when it comes to their knowledge of the world and the Asian market, and a lot of markets. We just haven't learned. We certainly don't know as much about you as you know about us. And I think that that's part of it. I think that there's content that can be mutually created that's entertaining and educational. I think we just need to educate a lot of the Westerners as to what the world is really like.
If you don't have any questions, I had asked all of our speakers to be predictive, and I know Andrew, you said something, Andy, but you know, we're talking about entertainment and technology, and they sort of now, I think, in this 21st century era, sort of go hand in hand. You know, somewhat. You know, new technologies drive content. You know, content drives the creation of new technologies. But can you see anything, since change happens and sort of impacts our global culture so much more quickly these days? Is there anything that you could predict, you think, that might be the case in the next 10 years in terms of content and technology and the future of digital entertainment?
I'll say something that I shouldn't say, but I'll say it anyway. I had a conversation with Jeffrey Katzenberg one time. I was like, you know, being a tech guy, I was saying, hey, you know, all this cool tech. He said, Richard, stop. The technology doesn't really matter. At the end, it's between me, the content creator, and you, the consumer. It's that relationship you need to build. And that's what will make it successful. And now I really, truly understand what he meant. Because at the end, technology will evolve, but we need to understand better the relationship between what I'm creating and how you consume it. And I think that's really the trend now, because the technology is finally there where we are much more connected. So what I create, I know how you respond to it. I think that will be the biggest shift in this industry.
Andy, well, you were saying that.
Yeah, I agree. I just think he's very smart. But I totally agree. Back in '81, we wanted to start this music channel, but nobody wanted a music channel. Nobody could figure out, why would I want music on television? I can hear it just fine. I mean, you may think that's weird, but that's the way people felt. I don't want to watch music. Music's supposed to be listened to. So all the research we did said nobody wanted MTV, which is why the ad campaign was, I want my MTV. So we basically forced people to say they wanted what we know they didn't want. So what we did was we went directly to the consumer. So we were the content creator going around the cable operator who didn't want to put it on. Because you know what the cable operator said to us? The youth don't pay the cable bill. Why would we program anything for the youth? We had to go around them. So we created that relationship directly between the content creator and the consumer.
Great. Do we have time for one or two more questions? Is there one over here? Oh, yeah, another one.
Another one.
You don't get 2 prizes for that.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
So I'm surprised we haven't actually talked about Google, the Glasses project. It's a very interesting platform that maybe it's a little bit early, but it seems that, you know, 3 of the largest VCs, Kleiner and Google and Andreessen Horowitz, are creating a big pool of investment to actually develop that platform. How do you think Google Glasses will actually change the content paradigm, actually? Because it seems to be a very interesting way of maybe creating a complete POV type content like we saw this morning earlier. Is there anything there different that you think is game changing, or is just another gimmick?
I'm pretty skeptical, but then I'm a content producer, so I haven't seen anything or got any real sense of what its relevance is to us, because it feels like the exact opposite of what I was talking about. It just feels like technology. I haven't really kind of got to grips with how it's going to help us that much.
I've actually worn the Google Glasses last December, and it's early days, but I think it's really interesting, and it represents, I think, this whole issue of cyber-human life, style. I think actually, wearable technologies, in the same way that, Robert was talking about mesh world and cameras everywhere, I think will become part of the future. And I do think there's something there. I just think it's going to take, quite a bit of money and, some new technology essentially to make it more seamless, I guess. And I think that's sort of what Richard was saying about, technology becomes more transparent, and then the experience is really between the content and the consumer as technology essentially becomes, invisible. If you want to comment on that.
I live very close to Google, and I have a lot of friends that work there. And Google Glasses initially will benefit Google far more than it will benefit any of us, because it's really the best mechanism for gathering information on you. Think about it. Okay? They would know far more about you through that than anything else.
When I had my Google heart transplant, I have a Google heart. I'll be getting a Google liver soon. And then I'm going to be ingesting a Google doctor, and she's going to go throughout the system and fix everything when it gets broken. So I think where's it going to end?
Do we have another question from the floor? Yes, someone. Oh, there it is, right there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my honored brothers. My question is, now we talk about digital entertainment, but I think health is better than entertainment. Now Chinese children, I use digital entertainment things like smart TV, watching smart TV, and use smart telephone. So I think, what's your opinion about health? The health about children, especially primary school students and middle school students? Thank you.
I'm not sure I got that whole question. I'm sorry. It's a little hard to hear with the mic here.
Okay.
There's something about technology and health, and kids growing up with technology.
Yeah. I think health is better than entertainment. So, you know, Chinese people, especially middle school students, they use more smart TV and smart cell phone, so their eyes is harmful. So.
Okay. Technology and health. Technology and health, and the use of technology. Am I correct? And you know, growing up with technology certainly is an issue, I guess, in terms of Wi-Fi and radiation and those kinds of things.
Okay.
In terms of real radiation, there's other things that are much worse than cell phone. But actually in Asia, you actually have it much better. Because in Asia, you have very high population density. Your cell phone actually operates at a much lower level than in the US. We have it much worse. I think New Zealand's probably pretty bad because you have low density.
So the health, clean, green New Zealand, and we have worse technology impact.
Yeah.
That's not good news, Richard.
You know, the weird thing about that, though, is that there's another way of looking at it, because I went to the Shanghai Expo, and one of the things I went and looked at was one of the big technology companies did a very interesting sort of invitation-only display where you could go and see the city of the future. And one of the really cool things that I thought was great was that they had, for old people homes and for sort of nursing homes and things like that, they had a whole sort of technology set up where you could sit in a chair and it would take your blood pressure and heart rate and a whole bunch of other things, and it was in effect video consultation for older people, and you know, where the doctor couldn't be at the place. And so you get that kind of complete 180-degree flip where the technology just suddenly makes so many things so much better. And because I think that's a really interesting place to do it, because China's going to have this rapidly aging population with very little support because of the whole 4-2-1 thing. So you've got the flip side where, you know, for all of the radiation or the whatever there are, you've got this massive advantage. And I think health and technology is probably one of the smartest areas.
Yeah. One of the biggest trends right now in the US, a lot of the new company, like, you know, the Facebook and Apple, they're going to be supporting telemedicine this year. Telemedicine is the solution to a lot of our medical problems in the United States.
Okay. All right, we're getting close to, we got 5 more minutes, and if you don't mind, I would like to ask each of you to give some advice. I know they say advice is what it, if it's free, that's what it's worth. But you know, what advice would you give to burgeoning entrepreneurs, young people, growing up, at this time, in terms of potential futures, potential opportunities in digital entertainment?
Well, in a very general answer to that is find a way to take your use of media and technology in your everyday life and bring it to a company or an individual you want to work with or work for, and find a way to bring a solution to that company. And don't think that what you know may not be important. Find a way to take and package what you know how to do, and bring it, help someone solve a problem in their business. That's something that I look for all the time, are people who can solve problems that I can't solve.
That's great. Richard or Dave? Go ahead, Dave.
I'd probably go against a lot of what I've heard today, which is people talking about technology and things like that, and say that one of the struggles that we have as a production company that employs an awful lot of people is that we struggle to find people who can tell stories. And something which is so simple is missing in so many people, because they have technical ability, they understand cameras, they understand editing, they understand a whole bunch of things, but they could not tell you a good story. And one of the things we used to say was we used to look a lot for graduates in English literature, because at least they had perhaps studied the essential nature of and structure of storytelling. And so I think that that's something that's missing from a lot of people, is that very, very simple thing, and that, you know, you can get completely fooled by a technical solution to something. And if you can tell a good story, in my opinion, you know, I always say to people in my company, you know, we are the modern court jester. We are the person who used to stand around the fire and entertain people, and if we were no good, we would probably go out and get our head chopped off. So you had to keep being funny, you had to keep being amusing, you kept understand stories, where punchlines came, and that sort of stuff. So I think something to do with storytelling is a really big thing, and we come across the absence of that constantly.
Richard, I'll give you a second if you want.
Totally agree.
Totally agree, okay.
Yeah. I think from my experience, I just say what I always tell myself every day I wake up. Always challenge yourself to be creative, and don't be afraid to have a voice. I think one of the weakness I see in a lot of area in Asia is people don't speak up. I think in Asia, you are very creative, you have a lot of knowledge, you're well educated. Learn to speak up and have a voice, because creativity is about people collaborating, sharing. So stay creative, I think, would be the most important advice, and then be able to voice that creativity.
That's a really good point. So I want to thank our keynotes today for sharing their thoughts. I think it's been a thoroughly engaging DELF, and I'm really pleased actually that we've managed to recreate DELF here in this amazing space, and even with the rain, I think it's been, you know, just an amazingly informative day. So I want to thank Richard, I want to thank Andy, and thank Dave. Thank you, thank you. And I just want to take a moment also to thank Lauren, who did, and his special presentation from Cinegrid. I think it's just fantastic what you got to show today. It's amazing what you're doing, and I can't wait to see where you'll be 10 years from now and another decade. And I want to thank Michael for our amazing panel with Robert and Henry, Pat, and Martin from New Zealand. And I really do want to thank, and I just have to thank Winnie and the marketing team, Terry and Carol, and Allison, and the audiovisual team. Thank you so much for everything you've done to make today work. It's just been really, thank you. That's from us. That's from all of us who are here speaking. Thank you. So there's a couple of closing remarks. I just got to come over here and let's see what we've got to say. Okay. Thank you. I also want to thank everybody on this list. There were people taking photographs in front of this wall of sponsors, so I really want to thank all of our sponsors, the supporting organizations, and the media partners who made this event happen, everyone at Hong Kong Cyberport. It's just a pleasure, actually, to have come back here again and to be here again. If you'll notice in the materials that you have, there is a one-page program. On the back of that program is an evaluation form. If you would please just take a moment to fill that out, and you can leave that at reception when you walk out. We'd really, really appreciate it. We want to know, what you thought of the day, and any feedback that you have is always helpful. Okay, I think that pretty much wraps it up. You have to return your simultaneous translation devices if you have one. Don't take it home with you and put it on. I think it's going to work outside of this room. So please return that. And there's shuttle buses here. The first one leaves at 5:30 p.m. The last shuttle bus to Admiralty will be at 6 p.m. So on behalf of DELF 2013, all of the speakers, Richard?
I'm doing something here.
Oh, no.
No. We must do this. Today's Hal's birthday. Okay? So I think we all he deserves at least a happy birthday from all of us, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hal. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm going to get you later for that. Yeah, so, well, just so you all know, I turned 60 today, and 60 is supposed to be a magical number. 6 is a good number. So I'm pleased to have survived and still be around 6 decades on planet Earth. Many of my friends, some have not managed to do that. Steve Jobs didn't manage to do that. A lot of amazing people haven't, made it to 2013 from 1953. So thank you for just, honoring me this way today. Thank you. Thanks for coming to DELF 2013. I hope that you will be inspired to go out and make a difference, change the world, follow your passions and do something awesome that you'll be up here telling us about at another time in the future. Thank you very much.